Ezrahti here with Applied Intuition, and today I'm here with Vicky Lyons-Elliott, and she's a tarot reader. She's also someone who's completed the Applied Intuition Clairvoyant training a number of years ago, and I'm talking to her about how she integrates tarot cards along with the clairvoyant work she's done. So Vicky, you want to go ahead and give us a little introduction about yourself and how you got into clairvoyant reading and also into tarot cards?
Sure. Yeah. So I, like probably everybody else, got into doing tarot, just trying to understand my own life. When I was in my early 20s and got into psychotherapy around the same time, and they kind of dovetailed together. So it was a very sort of in-depth immersion. And I just used, at the time in the 80s, there weren't a lot of books on tarot. I would recommend Mary K. Greer, any of her books.
Huh.
Yeah, and fast forward, I mean, I just kept doing it for years. And if there's a new book, I'd read the book. And there's a lot of processing work, and it was work. And then one day in my late 40s, I got kind of thrown into a job at a shop, sort of accidentally. Hadn't planned on it. I was just looking at cards obsessively, as I do. And the proprietor said, "Hey, you're always here looking at cards. Could you read this lady over here? She's going to India tomorrow."
Wow,
And
that is so cool. You just got asked to do a reading while you were shopping looking for cards.
yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, yeah, it was terrifying because I didn't have a lot of confidence, but I did the reading and they hired me. And so then I was like freaking out. And that's about the time I took your class, because it's like, man, I got to give him something, you know. And your class has been a solid base for everything I do, and really shifted the readings. And from that point on, you know, my own particular style clairvoyantly grew. You know, I did books and like channeling and stuff, and it just, to use clairvoyance with cards, the clairvoyance can really clarify what the cards are saying, because you're looking at a pattern and how everything relates.
Uh-huh.
And you're noticing things like if there's a lot of swords and wands, things are happening fast. Or if it's a lot of cups, it could be slow or powerful, like a tsunami for the person. Or if it's pentacles, things are going real slow, you know. And you look at all of that, then you bring in the clairvoyance, and you might get something that makes no sense to you. And that, you put that aside and you say, hey, I just got this image of a watermelon. And I think the first time that it really worked for me, because I tend to do body things clairvoyantly, because I was, at the same time that all this happened, I was trying to save my dog from bone cancer.
I remember that. I remember your dog
Yeah,
having
right.
this illness. Yeah. And
Yeah,
Vicky,
so
you make sure to try to speak up. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you too.
get closer. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's
So
better.
yeah, it's what I was paying attention to. I was paying attention to physical bodies. I was taking your class. I was doing cards, and it all came together. So the first time I really noticed it in a reading was I saw this girl pushing a watermelon up a steep hill in a wheelbarrow. And I noticed that. And I said, it's so funny. I don't know why I see this. There's this watermelon thing happening. And she said, well, I'm dying of kidney disease.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. And so I kind of followed that lead. But I think we all have I just think it's miraculous how everybody has a style and develops their own language. And you need to do that with whatever tool you're using.
Well, so go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, so I was going to ask you, so how do tarot readings, and particularly the way that you do them, you know, using your intuition and your clairvoyant skills and stuff, how can when someone comes to you for a tarot reading, how might that facilitate either a physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual healing for them? How would that tarot reading be helpful?
So first of all, it's what you do with it, right? It's how you approach it. And you get the knowledge of what the cards are talking about, body. I mean, it's divided into 4 elements.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody comes in and says, you know, I'm trying to get my spiritual self together and I can't seem to get off the ground with that. And you look at their hands and maybe it's all reverse swords, the negative mind. And there's no wands, there's no spirit there at all. So maybe they have an issue with fear, of letting go, of trusting, you know, or if it's all wands and it should be great, but then there's a few negative physical cards, pentacles. And it's like, oh, maybe they're sick and they don't have the energy to really raise their energy right now. So it can be like that. But I also use the Native American cards. I do the minimum of 3 layer of cards, and I get really precise meanings that way. And then, so it's not tarot, it's tarot plus that I do. And the Native American cards are right on psychologically, physically, spiritually, mentally. They are so accurate. And I integrate that, and it speaks to the person in all of these.
So are those the
specific ways.
animal cards? Is that what you're talking about?
Animal medicine?
Do you have a copy of them that you can show us real quick?
Sure.
I remember you doing a reading for me once, and I think you had, I want to say 5 decks. I don't know if that's even possible, but you had at least 3, I think.
Yeah, so I was really insecure. Let's just check a little bit more, you know. But I find that you get a multi-dimensional reading this way. But like you were talking about astrology, and I think if I had learned astrology, it would serve the same purpose.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's a language. When you were describing seeing different cards in someone, to me, I was seeing, that's kind of how when I'm doing a reading, I would see different images and then interpret them as meaning a certain thing. So it seems like you're almost looking at the images through the cards instead of just directly at the person's energy field. Like in the same way that astrology can kind of work that way too, where each planet has a certain energetic aspect to it, and a positive and negative aspect, and then the way they interact with each other.
Yeah, it's all, you're it's like cooking.
Yeah,
it's like baking. You got to know the formula, right? And then you can readjust. But I'm doing, my better readings now are just clairvoyant. But when I'm feeling sick, if my energy is low, I just read the cards.
Oh, interesting. Can you show us some examples of different cards and different decks? I think that would be kind of interesting for people to look at too. And maybe what are your favorite decks, or if someone's going to purchase a deck, what would you recommend to start out with?
Okay, so this is the Queen of Cups, and she's about being a grown-up, being emotionally stable, being compassionate, and being very emotional. She's water, balance. And this is the Crow, which is so now of course I'm going blank. Universal law, natural law. So this is a person who's mature, kind, and has a huge sense of integrity, who feels their way into doing things in an ethical, karmically correct way, and sees deeply into different layers of reality. This is cross-eyed Crow, so Crow can see clairvoyantly. Crow can see into the unconscious of a person. So I think this is your reading. But and what are we dealing with now? Well, we're dealing with the sort of collective energy. Is there's a lot of fighting and negativity, and skunk is energy. You always know it's there. So you've got to do what's right for you. You've got to keep balanced. You've got to keep your eye on what's true in your life and not get pulled down into all of this other stuff. And then I might add, where did I put them? Interesting. I think I overkill. I brought too many cards. Oh, here they are. So then on top of that, for the Queen of Cups, I might say, oh yeah, this is you, Tahara, Vision Quest, Clairvoyant. So you just got yourself a little reading. You're doing good.
Oh, thank you.
Hanging in there.
Awesome.
Hanging in there. So, but I think it's really, for me, it works to mix and match different, every deck is a different person's worldview. It encapsulates their feelings about things. I mean, there's the ones that we learn on, like the Rider-Waite-Smith, which aren't the original tarot. They started in Italy in 14.
Oh, you froze there. Let's see. You're trying to say something, Vicky. You're
A
frozen.
village was one of them.
There we go.
Yeah.
So can you repeat what you just said? You froze for a second there.
So, I mean, the tarot card began in 1445 in Italy, in Milan and surrounding areas. And they were a card game for the nobility. And each card was really big and painted with actual gold and silver by artists. And you could probably buy a village with one card, you know. And then they, in like the 1700s, some French mystic first described meanings to them. And it wasn't until like 1910 that Pamela Smith and what's his name, Wright, who was an academic and a mystic, got together and made modern cards. So you can play a lot with cards historically and what resonates with you, what means the most to you. Like I started doing political readings and I used the old Italian cards because they're medieval, and I thought that what I was reading felt pretty medieval to me too, you know, when people wanted political readings.
That's really fascinating. And then my son was interested. He was learning how to deal poker and play poker. And so he was really into cards, and then kind of informed me that playing cards are connected with tarot cards in some way. Is that correct?
Yeah, they just got their pips. They originally, until Coleman Smith, they didn't have all the pictures. You just went with the numbers. They're called pips. A card with 4 cups on it. And I kind of like that because it was more challenging for me intuitively.
Uh-huh.
I'm not being told what to do. I'm just given kind of a context.
That's interesting.
But I just think it's tarot cards. Yeah. Oh, hello.
Yeah. So hold on. That's okay. Just keep. Oh, so let's see. There we go.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure you've talked. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sure you talked to everybody about the ethics of doing readings and stuff a lot. But you asked, I want to get back to what's it like working in a store?
Yeah, what's it? So
like whatever.
Yeah, so Vicky works at, can I tell them where you work? Okay.
I'm not at the Mystic Merchant anymore.
Okay. So
yeah,
she works at Paradise Found in downtown Santa Barbara. So she does readings there in person and also on Zoom, or online, booked through them. And so I was curious, what's it like to basically have someone else booking your readings for you and working in a store environment, and how the logistics of all that work. So and for Dita and Mary and Alani, we're going to stay on mute until the end, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. Okay, so Vicky, go ahead and tell us how it is to work in a store.
It's like boot camp at first, if it's busy, and it's great for developing the ability to concentrate and shut out other noises. And sometimes you have to make sure that the energy you're reading is actually the person sitting right in front of you.
Wow, that is interesting. I never thought about that. But yeah, if you're in a store and someone's got intense energy or maybe wanting your attention, and they're standing 5 feet away looking at a book or some incense, that might bleed in, huh?
One time I did a whole reading, I mean, just really detailed and emotional and this and that. And the person's like, and I said, so did that make sense to you? They're like, no, not a word. And they left disgruntled, and I felt awful. And then a person had been sitting on a bench against the wall of the little space where I was reading, and they said, actually, that was me.
Wow. So,
I felt,
so then you had to get the other person, give the other person their money back and get this other person to pay you.
I went running out after them, and they were gone. So I felt really bad. So you
Wow.
have to, I've learned to ask, like I do a bit of channeling. I do rely mostly on, I think my best readings are no longer reading the cards. But they're really, really helpful. They structure your mind. They structure the path of inquiry. And sometimes you'll get a hit that changes the reading of the cards. Oh, that makes sense now.
Well, Vicky, it's been such a great honor speaking with you. It's just so fun, like hearing what you're doing and how you work and everything. So anything else you want to share with us? And also, how can people get in contact with you if they want to book a reading or they want to refer one of their friends or clients to you? And if there's any other way people can kind of follow you?
Yeah. The only thing I have is a Facebook page I haven't really been on for a long time, and I'm thinking of getting back into it. I used to do daily readings, and it's Vicky Lyons-Elliott, True Tarot, TRUTAROT is my new business name, and I don't have a website, so it would be Facebook. And I think my number's on the Facebook page.
Maybe you can email me that information and I'll write that down below the video once
Okay.
I get that. That'll be an easy way for people to get that info. Okay, well, anything else you want to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I had written something down. Upside down. No. Well, other than if you're doing tarot cards, it does help to have a lot of different kinds of decks, and you can find the ones that you resonate with. And because different decks work better with different people, kind of mix and match sometimes. And how your energy changes, you might get like a deck isn't working for you anymore, so you need, that's how I ended up with like 200 decks. But
You have 200 decks?
well,
Wow.
what did I do?
Oh my gosh. That's like a library full of decks.
Yeah, it's a little problem I have.
Your tarot card addiction.
I'm good. I'm satiated now. I have all that I think I'll ever need. So I'm good. And there's all kinds of YouTubes and stuff you can, people like, there's the Hermit's Cave, this guy named Simon in the UK. This is what happened. He shows new decks, and makers send him free decks, and he shows you the deck. And I mean, it's an art form, really, too. So I think it's a wonderful thing to get into.
Do you ever teach classes?
I never have. I would like to, actually. I don't have a place to teach, but I get a lot of young people coming to me who I end up sort of teaching, getting them started in their own process. Young women a lot. I love that. I just think it's wonderful. So I'd like to, but no.
So if someone wants to learn to read tarot, what's the best way? How would you advise them to go about that?
I would start off 1 to 3 cards at a time, and I would read the booklet thoroughly that they come with, and then I would branch off maybe into, like, I really recommend Mary K. Greer. I think tarot mirrors, tarot for the self, tarot reversals. I think major arcanas. She's like one of the heavyweights in the field, and I think she's also a therapist. Anyway, but
What's her name
It's
again?
Mary K. Greer.
Mary K.
Greer.
Greer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I really like. She's who I learned with, and you start off just a few cards at a time because it's a lot of information to integrate. 78 cards.
Wow.
Um,
Okay, Vicky, well, thank you so much. I'm gonna post this to our Jumpstart Your Healing Practice group and also my beginning class, and I might be posting this on, my Facebook or other places, and I'll send you this video too, and you can put it on your Facebook or whatever you want to do with it.
thank you.
And again, thank
Great.
you so much. It's great connecting with you again too. I haven't seen you in a while. Do you have any like upcoming healing fairs or any place other than Paradise Found where people can find you in the next couple months or so?
No, I've been laying low since the pandemic. I'm just kind of getting back into it. Just doing Zoom mostly. And I was thinking of just polishing up a few details and really stepping into the medical intuition. But since you gave me this opportunity, I'm like reconnecting with how much I just love doing tarot cards. And that's great. That's not so much work. But no, I would like to get an office or something, but that's the next step.
So if people want to book a tarot reading, kind of tarot/clairvoyant reading with you, they should contact you on your email or phone number or go to Paradise Found. How should they access you? What's the best way?
Messages is good. You can give them my number.
Okay.
Or email.
Or email.
Yeah. So it's all been kind of word of mouth. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great
good luck
rest of
to
your
everybody.
afternoon.
Thanks.
Okay, take
Good luck
care.
to everybody. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.